Welcome back. Up next, we will be hearing from Milecia McGregor, who is a senior software engineer, international tech speaker, and a mad scientist that works with hardware and software. She'll try to make anything with JavaScript first and enjoys learning random things in her free time. So just sit back and enjoy as she talks to us about bringing full stack to JAMStack.
Everybody, my name is Milecia McGregor, and today I'll be talking to you about bringing full stack to JAMStack. So, a little background on me first. I'm a developer advocate at iterative.ai, where we make machine learning tools, which is not really related to what we're talking about today, but I work with machine learning. I've done front end, back end development, some DevOps, some database work, mobile apps, VR, neuroscience, pretty much just all over the place with tech. But today I want to talk about a framework that I just really enjoy. So we'll be talking about Redwood. And if you want to keep up with me or ask questions about this talk later, you can always follow me on Twitter at FlippedCoding. So to kick it off, I always give an overview at the start of my talks because since everything went virtual, I know there are certain parts that you might be a little bit more interested in than other parts, and I want to make sure you can really focus on those when they come up. But first, we'll talk about what JAMStack actually is. Then we'll talk about what Redwood is in relation to JAMStack. And then we'll get into the fun part. So I'm going to attempt to live code an entire dashboard with Redwood. We'll see how it goes. So far, I haven't had any problems with this kind of demo, but we always say that before a live demo and then things happen. So let's see how we do. But after we make the dashboard, I'll wrap up with a few key takeaways, which is just some stuff that I hope you get out of today's talk. But first, let's start with what is JAMStack. So JAMStack stands for JavaScript, APIs, and Markdown, or markup if you want to get technical. Basically, this came about a few years ago, and the goal of it is to make the web faster and more secure. And the way that it does this is it just breaks apart the whole full stack paradigm, where basically you have a very, very small front end that's pre-rendered and it just hooks into the services that it needs to use. And you don't necessarily need to maintain a back end yourself. But there are some times where maybe you have a really custom app or you're dealing with some sensitive information and you want to have control over the database or over how data is handled on the back end in a way that you can't get with services. And that is where Redwood comes in. So Redwood is a full stack framework that uses React, GraphQL, and Prisma. So React on the front end, GraphQL for the back end, and Prisma to handle all of the database stuff. This basically extends the JAMStack framework to where you have a database attached to it. That is kind of the goodness of Redwood, or at least part of it. You're going to see a lot of crazy things that this framework does that still just blows my mind, and I'm sorry if I geek out a little bit. It's just wild how much it does with just a few different commands. So I know that was a really quick intro on JAMStack and Redwood, but it is already time for us to just jump into making this dashboard. So I'm gonna try to switch screens because that's what we all do nowadays. And yeah, so I did consider, setting this up from scratch for y'all, where we run just yarn create Redwood app, and we call this Redwood user dashboard. But I'm not gonna actually run this command because as you can see, we already have this project created. I just wanted you to see this command because it is how you generate a Redwood app. It just takes, a while because it creates a lot of different folders and files for you. So I didn't want to spend, 10 minutes waiting on packages and dependencies and file generation to happen. So I've already got the Redwood app created, and what you're looking at over here, this is everything that just comes straight out of the box with Redwood. So you already have this API folder which handles all of the backend. We have this database folder inside of it where we'll be making a Prisma schema, and we'll make some seed data as well. Then inside the source, this is where our GraphQL types and our resolvers will go. And that's a pretty quick summary of the backend folder. So on the front end, we're in the web directory. And this is pretty similar to most React apps. We have a pages directory where this is where all of the routes will draw components from. So they'll be in the pages. Then we have a layouts directory, which is where we keep the stylings we want applied to multiple pages, or maybe we want a particular layout applied to a special page just because it's different. And then we have components, which is where we put, well, pretty much everything else. So we'll see more about these directories as we get deeper into Redwood. But first, I want to show you that this runs right out of the box. So we'll just run yarn rwdev, and that starts up the app for us. And I'm gonna make sure that it is ready in the browser. So when I switch, y'all aren't wondering what is going on. Alright, so now we just wait for it to run. This is always the part in the talk where I'm just like, well, happy Juneteenth, everybody. But while this is running in the background, we can talk about like what Redwood is doing here. So when you run yarn rwdev, that starts up the backend, it starts up the front end. If you do have your database connected, it'll go ahead and attach to that. But there are a few things we can get out of the way while that's starting up. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually add an environment variable. So we're gonna go ahead and update the URL for our Postgres database. So by the way, we're working with the Postgres database. There's a lot of stuff that's going in here that I'm trying to touch on pretty quick. But in this environment file, you'll notice that Redwood already has some dummy data in here. So I'm just gonna delete that line and paste in my URL. This is just my local database, so no scary credentials are out here. And I'll save this environment file. And we'll jump over here in the API directory, and in this database directory, we'll start working on our schema. So this schema.prisma file is how we're gonna make the models for our tables in the database. So first thing we'll do, we're not using SQLite. We're gonna use PostgreSQL up here because that's the database that we have locally. And then we are lucky enough to have this example model here. So what we're gonna do is delete the to-do, and we are gonna have a users table. So this project is a really simple user dashboard where they can come in and add new users, edit users, and delete users. They'll be able to have items in a fake inventory, and those items will be attached to a specific warehouse location. So we're just gonna have 3 tables that cover those things. and we need to make sure that we have models for all those tables. So our user table is gonna look pretty similar to this. We just need to add a role, which will also be a string. I'm gonna make this name required, and that is our user model. So next, we'll make a model for our location. So this is gonna have an ID just like user. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that. And it'll also have a name, which will be a string. And we'll give it a district just because that, I don't know, it sounds cool. You have your items in a certain district location. But anyways, so we have our location defined, we have our user defined. So let's go ahead and make a model for our item. And this will also have an ID. I don't think you can make a database table without some kind of ID. I'm sure you can, but that just feels wrong. But the items are gonna have an SKU that's a string, and it should be unique for every item. It's gonna have a name, which you guessed it, it's a string too. And it's also gonna have a location. So now we're gonna add a relation between two tables using Prisma. But I'm just gonna put the type here for now, and then we'll add the location ID down here, because we're gonna use this as a reference. So to get this location attached to our item, we're gonna do relation fields, and in this array, we'll put our location ID. Love autocomplete. And then we'll have a reference array to the ID of our location model. And again, love that autocomplete, but we have to have a reference to the item table in the location table, even though the only table with a foreign key to location is item. But that's how Prisma does this, and that's how we're gonna do it. But if you notice down here, we actually have this app running. So I'm gonna switch over to my browser and show you what it looks like real quick. It's nothing, nothing too crazy. But let me see if I can switch over. And, yes, here it is. So this is what an initial Redwood app looks like. It already has this kind of home page here for us with some instructions on what to do next. So just wanted you to see that this was actually running while we've been doing all this other stuff in the code. But we have all of our models in place, which means we have our database schema ready. So the next thing we need to do is come over here and add some seed data. I am going to get rid of a lot of these comments because they're great comments, don't get me wrong. We just don't need them right now. Y'all can look at all of the Redwood awesomeness a little later. So I'm gonna uncomment this part in particular because Redwood does come ready to just generate everything for you. So it has this example seed file ready to go. So what we're gonna do is clean it up just a little bit. And I think I got my parentheses right. So we are gonna add something to the user table. I'm gonna give it a name, Kaya. The email address is gonna be test@best.com. And what else do we have on there? We'll give this user a role of, it says admin, why not? And I'm gonna put that comma there, and copy this a couple of times and paste it. And we'll change this to be our location table. and we'll give this location a name of Compound North. It'll be in District 1, and I think that's all for location. Yep. So I'll get rid of that roll over here. And then the last seed data we need is for our item. So we'll say Morning Glory. We'll give it an SKU of this random string I'm just throwing in there. And the last thing it needs is a location ID. And when this is generated, it'll have an ID of 1. So I'll just put 1 there. Save that. Check that our model has everything we need, and it does. So now we're actually ready to run a migration. So I'm gonna stop the app real quick. I'm gonna stop it and clear the terminal. And then we're gonna run yarn rw, which stands for Redwood, Prisma, migrate dev. And this is gonna generate a new migration for us. And once it's, ready, we'll give it a name. Okay, it's loading everything, making sure we're good and connected to the database, which we are. And it's getting there, y'all. Oh, I already had some data there, so, just gonna delete that. But you see our seed got run already, and we're gonna call this migration, I don't know, just keep it simple. We added some tables. So it ran the seed, it generated this migration for us, which you can see in the database folder. Just drop down and we got some migration stuff. And now it should be syncing with our database. So let me bring you back into the browser real quick where you can see this. We're just using PG admin, by the way. Oh. Huh. That figures. Doesn't want to show. Let me try to refresh it. Maybe that'll do it. Okay, here we go. So in the PG admin, I'm just gonna go in here and open up that database, and you'll see we have our tables. If I open this, you'll see our schema was taken in, and we should be good to go. So gonna put that back up there and switch back to the code because that's where all the interesting stuff is happening anyways. Okay, so back in the code. I know you're probably wondering how we're actually going to finish this, but just you wait. So we've got our seed run, we have our database ready. Now we're going to create the front end and the back end at the same time, which is kind of still magic to me. So we're going to do all of that with just one Redwood command. It's called yarn Redwood generate. I'm just using all of the shorthand. And we're going to scaffold our user. So what this is going to do is create all of the GraphQL types, all of the queries, all of the mutations. It's going to make our front end components. They'll already have styles. They'll be connected to the GraphQL server. The GraphQL server is going to have the resolvers that are already connected to the database. And it's honestly just a little bit crazy how much stuff this generated for us in 24 seconds. So I'm gonna come over here and just show you all of these new files. So in the source, if we go to this GraphQL folder, you'll see we have our schema for GraphQL. And this is everything we need to make CRUD updates for our user. So it did everything for us. If you want to see the resolvers, that's here in the services. And you see we have where we get all of our users. We can fetch one, we can create a new one, we can update, delete. All of the CRUD is built in for us, which is kind of crazy. At least to me, that still blows my mind. It makes everything for you, but it gets wilder. So here on the web directory in the source, if you look at pages, we have this whole user directory and it has everything. Like, this is just the pages. We also have a new layout if we wanted to update it to be something fancy and pretty. We have a bunch of components that I'm about to show you. So it already has forms, it already has the handling for our queries, even if it's loading or empty. It made all of this with that one command. It even updated the routes for us. So we have all of these user routes inside of our router, and we didn't even have to do anything. I'm gonna run this again just to show you this stuff works, and I don't know. I hope it blows your mind as much as it blows mine, because we just made the whole front end and back end for a component in 24 seconds. And we're about to use that to build out pretty much the rest of this app. So while that is running, I am gonna go ahead and build out the rest of the app. So I split my terminal, and we're gonna run another yarn Redwood command. So this one will be yarn rwg for generate, and we'll scaffold our location. So this is gonna make all of the front end and back end to connect to our location table, and we'll have all of the same files that were generated for the user folder, just for our locations. Like, it'll be here. And since this is running now, let me see about switching to that view. Oh, is it upset about something? No, looks like it's fine. So since it's not upset about something, let me go ahead and show you what this looks like in the browser. So here I am I'm just on this users page. We can make a new user, which I'll just say test@rest.com. I don't know, Nathan. And we'll make Nathan an admin, and I'll save that, and boom, right there. I didn't write any code to do any of this. I just ran one command, and now I have a whole CRUD ready to go. Like, it shows you everything. You can come in here and edit it. Maybe I want to call Nathan Nate, and I save it, and it's already updated. Like, what? That's crazy to me. And if I do the same with locations, oh, maybe that's not ready yet. Might have jumped the gun a little bit. So let me switch back over to the code, which is here. No, not there. Which is, where did, switching these things always leads to some kind of problem, but it's okay. We're tech people, right? So here we go. Okay, got this ready to go, and all we have left to do is take a look at our components. Location is there, but since it fussed, I'm gonna go ahead and clear out this side terminal, and we'll just run. Actually, let me see why locations isn't working real quick. So I am back in the locations folder, did the routes update. Maybe I just need to restart the server. Sometimes that happens when you make a really big backend change with Redwood. You'll need to restart the server so it gets all of those changes correctly. But once you have everything in here, it's basically magic from there. The only drawback is that sometimes running commands with Redwood can just take a little while. Like, this wouldn't normally bother me if I wasn't in a live demo. So yeah, while we're waiting on that to run, what else can I show you or say about Redwood? Something may be wrong? I'm not sure yet. We'll find out shortly. This is the joy of live coding. You never know what you're gonna get. Oh, it looks like I'm getting some errors. So, I did not mean type of time. What is this talking about? I was concerned about this. Every time I do a live demo, things usually go pretty well. But this might be one of those times where it just doesn't. So let me take a look. Oh, duh. I haven't made the items. Ha. So I am gonna go ahead and run yarn rw generate, and I'll do the scaffold for item. That'll add the GraphQL types that we're missing, which was stopping this app from running. So, got to see a little bit of live debugging, and hopefully this will make everything work this time. So just a few more seconds, and we'll have all three of these components ready to go. So I'll clear out this side terminal. It looks like it's not gonna fuss at me anymore. I'm happy about that. And if we do go back to the browser this time, let's see if I can do that pretty easily. Yes, now you see locations. So I'm gonna make one real quick. I'll call this one Compound South. It'll be in District 2. I'll save that. And if I go to the items endpoint, boom, it's right there ready to go. So I'm gonna add a new item, and we'll call this one Lily, and give it a location ID of 1. So you actually have an entire dashboard app with all of the CRUD ready to go in what, 20-ish minutes? And that was with me stopping to debug a couple of times. That's not bad at all. We didn't get to do a really pretty layout, but I just wanted to show you how quick it is to get set up with CRUD in just a few commands. Like, we have the whole front end, it's styled a little bit, it's connected to the database. Let me show you where it's actually updating data for us. So if I can bring a tab over real quick. And I refresh this, boom. You see how we've been adding data to our database this whole time? Oh, let's look at location real quick. And there it is. So Now that you know everything is connected, you can add a whole front end and back end with just a few commands. Unfortunately, it's time for me to wrap up. So, I'm going to leave you with just a few key takeaways today. And let me get back to the right browser and present this. So, few things I'd like you to take away from this. Sometimes JAMStack needs to be extended and you need your own database. But JavaScript has the tools to handle all of this and more. Like with Redwood, it just makes it super easy to build this whole full stack app really quickly. And that's all the time I have today. If you have any more questions or you want to learn more about this, just reach out to me on Twitter at Flipped Coding. So thank you, and I hope this talk was useful.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing coding demo. I don't know how you all do it, but it just blows my mind every time I see the typing, and then voila, it's just like magic. Just wow. I think someone commented pixie dust. I love it. Just totally magical. But definitely just want to say thank you to Milecia for that amazing demo. Mind blown. I said it and then I heard her say it. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That just blew my mind. But we are going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we are going to come back with Michael Winslow. So hang in there with us. I'm going to also be talking more. I hope you guys see the shirt. I'm going to be giving you some information on how you can receive one of these shirts. So stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.